Guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. I hope you guys are staying safe. I hope everything's good wherever you are. So guys, I want to give a big shout out to all of you guys. Thank you for your support. I've seen the reaction over the last couple of days have been great, so thank you very much. Keep showing that support, keep smashing the like button, keep sharing the videos, keep subscribing to the channel if you're new to the channel, all that good stuff. And let's get into this video because I really want to talk about this topic. Jermall Charlo says he'd use Benavidez as a stepping stone to get to Canelo Alvarez. Do I believe this? I don't know about it. I don't know whether I agree with what Charlo's saying here. But this is what Mr. Charlo had to say. Charlo is basically saying, I'd still fight David Benavidez and use him as a stepping stone to get Canelo if that's what they want me to do. But they're not setting that up. That's what Jermall, then he goes on to probably say, he's not a professional. He's not professional enough. He hasn't learned how to get a fighter to open himself up for the great jab, and he's not got the power. Sean Porter on the Porter Wave podcast, super middleweight champion David Morrell not being ready for Benavidez. Okay, that's for Benavidez. Okay, let's see what Jermall had to say. Well, that's it. Basically, Jermall, that's all he said. He said, if they want me to fight David Benavidez as a stepping stone to get Canelo. So what is that? What is he saying? That I'll fight Canelo if and use Benavidez as a stepping stone. Benavidez is no stepping stone because actually Jermall would actually go into that fight against Benavidez as an underdog. People would actually look at him and think that he'd lose that fight. And Jermall also made some other comments that there's no reason for me fighting Caleb Plant because people are just going to see him as a stepping stone to get the Canelo fight. So why don't they just give me Canelo anyway? That's what he said. He said, why don't they just give me Canelo? Jermall's basically saying, just give me Canelo. And that's what Jermall said, give me Canelo next. Now, I do think that I think the Benavidez fight, I don't think they're going to go anywhere near the Benavidez. I think he's saying that he'll fight Benavidez. As much as, look, I like Jermall Charlo. I've actually spoken very highly of him, but although he says he will fight Benavidez, his actions don't really show that he really wants that fight. Also, I can understand why. Look, he's also made some comments that, Benavidez is a cruiserweight. Benavidez is this. So that really tells you that maybe Charlo's not that interested in a Benavidez fight. I think he knows that, Benavidez is big, he's dangerous. That's not to say that Jermall wouldn't fight him. I just don't think Jermall's that interested in that fight. I think what he wants is he wants a Canelo fight because he views that a big fight and he views that as a big payday. And he's thinking, why do I need to fight these guys? I should be able to get Canelo fight right away. But unfortunately now, Canelo's going to be tied up for a while because Canelo's got business to handle. He lost to Bivol, so that his next fight is Golovkin, and then he's going to fight Bivol. Now, if he was to have fought Bivol next, which I think probably wasn't going to happen because I think DAZN would have probably talked him out of it. And who knows, they may have even paid him more money, to take the Golovkin fight. We just don't know. But I just think DAZN are looking at it is that Canelo would be a favorite to beat Golovkin. Fighting Bivol, he wouldn't be a favorite. And if he loses to Bivol, that Golovkin fight goes down the wayside. This way, they can get two big fights. They can get Golovkin and they can get Bivol, because, again, we're underestimating Golovkin. Golovkin might do a job on Canelo. Who knows? But the favorite would be Canelo to win that fight. And then, the Bivol fight's another big fight. So, Canelo's going to be out till next May. Only then he's going to be able to fight, or pick who's going to be fighting next. So is Jermall Charlo going to put himself on hold till 2023 September? Because that's almost 14 months. And what's he going to do for 14 months? In that time, he should probably have 2 more fights. He should fight now. Or he should have been fighting now. He should have probably fought in December, and he could have fought in May. But at least in that period, he needs to fight twice. He needs to fight in a couple of months, and then he needs to fight again in like February, March. Otherwise, he's wasting his career away. You know, you can't just wait for Canelo like this, because at the end of the day, Canelo Alvarez is doing his own thing. You know, and Jermall Charlo needs to fight David Benavidez. He needs to get that fight. If that fight can happen, Jermall Charlo should fight him. But from the way he's talking, he said, I'd still fight David Benavidez's ass and use him as a stepping stone to get Canelo, if that's what they want me to do. But they're not setting that up. So basically what he's saying is that if they set up a Canelo fight, right, and they give me the assurity that Canelo would be next if I beat David Benavidez, I'll fight David Benavidez. But he's basically saying, I'm not going to fight David Benavidez if I'm not guaranteed Canelo. That's what it seems like he's saying. That's what it's coming across anyway. That I'll fight him if you can guarantee me Canelo next. I don't think that anyone can guarantee him Canelo next, because Canelo is a guy that, you know, is the man for his. He basically chooses what he wants to do. He decides what he wants to do with his career. He decides and picks and chooses what he wants. So you can't say, well, you can't really dictate to Canelo, can you? You can't really say to Canelo, well, you have to fight Charlo next. If Canelo decides to fight Charlo, that's another thing. Obviously, if Jermall Charlo beats Benavidez, he puts himself in a great position. Right? He puts himself in a great position. But anyway, Jermall Charlo shouldn't even be thinking about Canelo. He should be thinking about to create his own legacy. You see, a lot of you guys give Canelo a lot of grief, but why don't you give these guys grief? Why are they all looking for Canelo to make their legacy? Why are they not looking to make their own legacy by fighting the other guys? You know, basically Jermall Charlo rejected the Caleb Plant fight almost. He just said, why do I need to fight Caleb Plant? Like, you know, they're just going to use him as a stepping stone to get to me Canelo. Why don't you just give me Canelo? That don't make sense. You know, if you're getting another big fight, a fight that's going to make you good money, a fight that's going to get you recognition, why wouldn't you take that fight? Unfortunately, Jermall Charlo's in a bit of a tricky spot, because a lot of the big guys, a lot of the guys that are big names, are all tricky fights for him, or all dangerous fights for him. Like Benavidez is just a problem, because Benavidez is big, strong, but Charlo is very strong and big. That's a good fight. And by no means Benavidez is going to win that one, because I do think, you know, I like Charlo in that fight. I do. I think that's a great fight. I think the Caleb Plant fight is a more difficult fight stylistically for him. I think Caleb Plant is a mover. He's fast, you know, and I think he has a kind of style which will cause Charlo all kinds of trouble. I do. I think the Caleb Plant style is horrible for Jermall Charlo. You know, imagine if Korobov gave him that much trouble. Imagine what someone like Caleb Plant would do. If Korobov is giving you, and Korobov's a smaller guy, you know, he wasn't young when Charlo fought him, and he gave Charlo such problems. This guy is young, fresh, you know. Yeah, Caleb Plant's going to be a problem for this guy, for Jermall Charlo. He is. And that's why I think there's probably Charlo not really wanting those fights, because he's probably thinking all those fights are pretty tough. So if I'm going to take these tough fights, why not just me jump in with Canelo right away? I think that's how he's thinking, which I can get his way of thinking. But at the end of the day, how long is he going to wait around waiting for Canelo? You know, because I personally think he's stalling his career for a Canelo. I know he keeps saying that I don't care about Canelo, but it looks like he does, because he was fighting Selecki. He's now pulled out of his fight with Selecki through injury. He's talking about fighting the winner of Golovkin and Canelo. I think it's desperate times for Charlo, in the sense that, not desperate times financially, because obviously the guy's made a shed load of money and Charlo's a multi-millionaire. But I think it's desperate times in terms of his career. He doesn't know whether to twist or stick. He doesn't know what to do. He's confused. He doesn't understand what to do in terms of who to fight. Because no one's interested in watching him fight Selecki. And the fights that we want to see are maybe fights that he's thinking, those are risky fights. If they're going to give me those guys, I would just want Canelo. But again, getting Canelo's the man of his own destiny. He chooses what he wants. So, you know, fighting Charlo might not be in the agenda at this point, because he's got Golovkin, and then he's got Bivol to deal with. So unless Canelo decides to forfeit the rematch and say, look, I ain't fighting Bivol. Bivol's just too big. and then decides to, you know, go and fight back at 168, then yeah, Charlo could be a possibility. But I don't think Canelo's going to do that. I think Canelo's going to go straight to that. He's going to go to that Bivol fight because I think he's going to want to avenge the loss. So I do think that Canelo's going to want to put the record straight there. So I don't think, unfortunately for Charlo, I don't think Charlo, I think the earliest he can get Canelo in the ring is probably September of 2023. But you can't stall his career till then, you know. Is he going to have 2 more gimme fights and then hope Canelo picks him in September of 2023? You know, he might not even pick him then. You know, he might pick somebody else. So, at the end of the day, for me, Charlo is stalling his career. He's stalling his career. And really, I think there's probably other guys out there that people would rather see now. Because Charlo's stock is falling. Because of the fact that he's not really fighting anybody. Guys like David Benavidez are putting in impressive performances. And his name in boxing is growing. And a lot of people want to see him fight Canelo Alvarez. I think that's the fight that a lot of people want to see. Charlo is kind of going down the pecking order. At once, he was the hottest name and the guy that people wanted to see. Now people probably want to see him fight Andrade or Benavidez. I think they're the names that people want to see. Charlo, because of the poor competition, people have kind of gone off on Charlo. But Charlo, like I said, if he can fight a David Benavidez, fight a Caleb Plant and beat one of them, even fight an Andrade and beat one of them, I think he puts himself in a prime position for the Canelo fight. I do. But again, Charlo don't really bring much at 168. He don't really, what does he bring at 168? He doesn't bring anything. This is what I mean. A fight against Benavidez would prove his worth, because a lot of people think Benavidez should fight Canelo. So if he beats Benavidez, it puts him in that position where people will say, no, you need to fight Charlo next. He just beat the guy that people wanted to see Canelo fight. So personally, I think all of these guys Canelo could fight, but you can't fight all of them. Eventually, they're going to have to start fighting each other. But I don't think they're going to fight each other because they're all looking for the Canelo payday. I do think Benavidez and Andrade, they want to fight anyone. They would fight Charlo, they would fight. But I'm not so sure Charlo. I think Charlo was looking for that, fight with Canelo. I do think this though, if Golovkin loses a close decision to Canelo, and he wants to go on, he might fight Charlo because he might think that's a big fight. And also, I'm pretty sure Golovkin isn't going to lose his belts at 160, so he's still a unified champion. So maybe Golovkin goes back down to 160 and says, you know what, I'll fight Jermall Charlo, and look to unify that division. Imagine that, Golovkin coming back and looking to unify and become undisputed at that division. That'd be incredible. And who knows? So Charlo might land himself that fight after the Golovkin fight. Who knows? But we'll have to wait and see. Leave your thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Jermall Charlo said they might as well just give me the Canelo fight. Leave your thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.